Hello, and welcome to Right for America Issues That Unite, Don't Ignite. I am your host, Cindy Gross. You know me as the Jewess Patriot, proud American Jew. But as many of you know, and to all of our new followers, you don't have to be Jewish to be a part of this show because we talk about issues that unite Jews and everyone else with common sense discussion. But before we begin, as you know, we have a disclaimer that the views expressed by our guest on the show are not necessarily the views of the America First Warehouse, Right for America, Cindy's Corners Productions, and all the outlets that we air on. And with that, many of you know, I go into my pearls of wisdom because my Jewish name is Zisel Perel, which means sweet pearl. And there's just so much to discuss. I mean, from being the 1 year anniversary of being at the RNC in Milwaukee to what is going on this past week. I currently am in our studios in beautiful Texas and meeting so many Texans that are so proud to be American, so proud to stand with their fellow Texans who have suffered loss and who are donating all volunteering time and effort to the cause of helping families rebuild after the horrible July 4th floods and loss of family members and friends and neighbors. It's unbelievable to see the patriotism in Texas and the will to rebuild and be stronger than ever before, which is so much just like all of us. But my pearls of wisdom, I'm going to open up with something very serious because I am personally involved in this as the longest plaintiff in a lawsuit in New York Supreme Court against the New York City Department of Education. There has been a lot of talk this week about the National Teachers Education Association ousting Holocaust material and becoming really very anti-Semitic. And people are in shock. And there's no reason they should be in shock because many in the field of education, whether or not it's parents or staff, supervisors, people that work within departments of education, even those in the teachers' unions who don't want to admit it, have known for years the anti-Semitism, discrimination, and racism in schools. I recently wrote an article that was published in Israel National News that you could all read. It was published on Sunday, and I am going to read it, so if I'm looking down, bear with me because it's that important. The Anti-Defamation League missed the chance to speak up in 2005. The ADL lost its fight against anti-Semitism way before the National Education Association vote ousted its Holocaust material. Eventually, it politicized anti-Semitism and used its power to support progressives, and this is my personal testimony. Last week, the largest teachers union in the U.S. ended its relationship with the ADL for its support of Israel. Its non-binding resolution calls to stop using materials on the Holocaust and Jew hatred of the organization, what's considered an anti-Semitism watchdog. This decision, however, did not occur in a vacuum. It comes amid a long-time surge of anti-Semitic incidents targeting Jewish students across American schools in which the ADL did not do its job. In fact, Jonathan Greenberg was quoted in the Jewish National Syndicate, who runs the ADL, that he is in shock of the weaponization. I'm going to just summarize this, and that they are partnering with the forces of Jew hatred and enemies towards Israel. And he's acting like he's in shock, and the ADL actually is claiming to start a movement to get information from staff and parents regarding education and anti-Semitism. But what Jonathan Greenblatt is not sharing that is truthful is that this did not start with him. Under the previous head, Abe Foxman, I have the proof that the Anti-Defamation League, yes, I, Cindy Gross, have the proof that they betrayed Jewish educators and turned a blind eye to anti-Semitism in public schools. Because in 2005, 20 years ago, two attorneys from the ADL sat in an EEOC Step 3 fact-finding conference and witnessed union-supported staff members interrogated about their racist and anti-Semitic words and actions in a failing school district in Queens, New York, District 29. And I write the details of the case. I initiated it because I witnessed differential treatment of Jewish staff in comparison to others, white staff in comparison to others, and questionable activity in showing a lack of professionalism in the supervisors and in the safety and care of its students. Among the complaints that were proven facts were that Jewish teachers were harassed for wanting to take personal days, unpaid personal days, for religious purposes when others took their personal time to practice their religious beliefs without any harassment or retaliation. Obvious inaccuracies in curriculum, hiring discriminations, and tenure issues for Jewish staff members, as well as prejudice in contractual observations and performance ratings. If anybody understands, and we need to really publicize more how teachers are tenured and observed for their professional ratings, you will find where we have a problem in our schools, because most of the people that are passing these, or too many of them, I should say, are not really qualified. ADL attorneys took notes, commented to me, and did nothing because they faced the dilemma of confronting Randy Weingarten, their board member, then the Union Federations of Teachers president. ADL was working with Randy Weingarten hand and foot. They heard the testimony, how I was questioned about hosting a bar mitzvah in Israel, taking off Jewish holidays, wearing similar attire to yeshiva staff members and getting criticized, misinformation about Jews in lessons that were repeated, and staffing practices. They actually heard a principal lie and saw a notification to prove their lie about taking days off, and actually pushed me to teach inaccurate information. It was so inaccurate that the attorneys laughed when they heard it and looked at me and said, this is really somebody who should not be teaching. But of course that was hearsay, so I can't prove that. 20 years have passed. Let me tell you about the people in my school. The principal in question was arrested in 2006 for defrauding the New York City Housing Authority. Both the principal and assistant principal were connected to a nonprofit organization that was housed in the school building that made headlines when its leader was arrested for grand larceny, forgery, and falsifying business records. The assistant principal, who testified, was removed after a gun incident to another school in the neighborhood. The superintendent, who actually allowed them to continue to work despite constant criticisms, complaints from parents, and poor ratings. He, in 2017, was arrested for sexual abuse and forcible touching. In 2021, parents of District 29, mostly minority, mobilized against the New York City Department of Education, who publicly demand answers to failures within the school district. I, in 2010, filed a lawsuit against the questionable administrators and others for retaliation against me. My case is still pending. Thousands of Jewish staff have been targets of discrimination. Many have reached out to me, and I have the witnesses and documentation to prove it. And I'm asking all of you, if you know anyone, don't take it to the ADL or the federations. Bring it to me, and I will take it to the appropriate people who want to do something and make a difference. You have survived the attacks, and many have had to retire or leave involuntarily through expensive legal arbitrations and bias against them. The ADL never came to their aid in 20 years. And then you wonder why we have, 20 years later, young adults walking around getting paid in protest, burning American flags, burning Israeli flags, calling for calling for support for Palestine, where they've never been and have no idea about the history there, and basically looking for entitlements and ways to take advantage of a socialist communist government. Example being their support in the New York City Democratic primary with the win of Mandami, and now in Minneapolis, again, the same situation, a socialist Democrat leading in a primary for mayor there. I want you all to reach out to me. I want you to share this and get it out. There are people that will finally come out and help you. They've reached out to me, and it's time that you reach out to me as well. There might be a little hope in November because of the outrage around the world about the Mandami primary victory. And joining me now is from the Upper East Side New York City Council race, herself, a proud Jewish American, another Jewess patriot, Alina Bazel. She is from District 5, and I am so happy she is joining Right for America. She is the endorsed GOP conservative candidate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for having me. But just small clarification, I was actually born in the former Soviet Union. My family came because they escaped anti-Semitism from what a country that is now referred to as Odessa, Ukraine. And we came in 89, because like so many in Eastern Europe, it was a predominantly Christian country, and they came here for their dream of a better life for themselves and their children. And I think that dream is getting kind of stomped on right now because we escaped communism, which is, socialism is just another form of it. And it's a system that we know just does not work, whether it's Cuba, China, or the former Soviet Union. It is not what America is about, and it's not what the capitalist, American dream is about. So hopefully I can have a part in saving it.
Well, tell us a little bit about why you want to run.
Why I want to
run? What do you want to accomplish? Because as we know, Manhattan, we see what's going on, and it's very hard in Manhattan for a Republican to win. And you are getting a lot of attention. Tell us why you think now is the time.
Well, first, Mr. Trump has made it a little bit more possible than it used to be because, and we have to ride that momentum. And we had, 12 years of leadership that were Democrats in the city, and it's failing. What have they done? Our streets are not safer. Our subways are not cleaner. If anything, we have more homeless people sleeping on our streets and subways than ever before. They promise us the world, but they don't execute. And I'm proud to be with the party that does execute, that does deliver on promises, promises made, promises kept. And I'm the same way. I'm a person of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I will go to hell and back trying to do it. So that's what I want to do. But first, I want to, it was unknown to me 60 days ago that I'd even be talking about this because I didn't really foresee this to be a big, issue that it is now. Nobody knew Mandami's name 60 days ago. And now he's likely going to be the next mayor. And if we create a firewall in City Hall, meaning elect Republicans to balance City Hall, none of these dangerous legislations could pass. A mayor has no legislative power. The mayor can pick, the judges, a commissioner. Essentially, a mayor can outfit his whole cabinet the way that Trump does, right? But to pass any single piece of law, like raising the tax, like cutting funding to the NYPD, like increasing corporate taxes, creating grocery stores, government grocery stores, anything Impossible, completely impossible, unless 26 city council members of the 51 that make up New York City Council, City Hall, will raise their hand and say yes. Unfortunately, right now, we have a monopoly in City Hall. We have only 6 Republican candidates, and the other 45 are Democrats. However, November 4th is not only the most important election for New York City's mayor, every single city council seat is also up for reelection.
So I have to tell you, I always say local elections count, and everybody comes to me for information because I have gotten to know throughout the years city council, legislative people in counties. Um, it's amazing how people don't want to pay attention. But many people don't even realize that Mandami started locally in assembly. And it's these city council seats, it's these assembly and state senate seats, their village mayor seats that actually encourage people, if they're popular, to move up. No one thought 2 years ago at this time we'd even mention this guy's name. We didn't have any idea who he was. And now everybody around the world knows his name. Everybody around the world is talking about this race, and everybody around the world is questioning what's going to happen to Wall Street, what's going to happen to the real estate industry, what's going to happen for our subways if he wants to make them homes for the homeless, what's going to happen to food when he's going to take over free supermarkets. It's unbelievable.
I heard his name actually, I would say probably it was about mid-April, and I had one of my events that I was speaking at, and one of the guests there said, I know nobody really knows this, but this guy is funded by Soros. And it was a little hard to believe because at first you're like, who is this guy? Why would Soros fund him? And then I did a little bit of a deeper dive and I'm like, oh, well, Soros is an older guy. I don't know how active he is, but ironically, Soros' son is about the same age as Mamdani. Maybe they have some sort of friendship. And then Soros' son is getting married to a Muslim woman. So, oh, well, that makes a little more sense now. And this Muslim woman used to be an aide for Hillary, and she used to be Anthony Weiner's ex-wife. So she's very...
And she likes Jewish men because Alex Soros is Jewish. I mean, by name on, but he actually, wore a yarmulke and a tallis at his wedding, which was kind of a joke. But yes, Uma, I don't even want to
mention something right. I mean, she's like 10 years older than him. I can't say she's a great beauty, She gives all these other older women.
I don't really pay attention to that. I care about their policies and how they spend their money and how they care about America and Israel and anti-Semitism and equating. See, they use this excuse. Oh, we're against Israel. We're not against Jews. And that's what I keep hearing from Mandami. That's not true. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. But I had to ask you, you are running against somebody who is Jewish. You are, I don't even want to mention her name here because I don't want to give her more credit. You are running against somebody who claims to be a moderate and somebody who will probably, if, is considered right now, the one who is the person there already and is up for a leadership, the incumbent in a leadership role. So tell us where you are going, like you differ as Jewish women on the Upper East Side.
So obviously, my biggest thing now is protecting the Jewish community as somebody that is also, I did 23andMe. I'm 99.4 Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish. So my family is, my very conservative, very Jewish family. So we care obviously against people that are anti-Semitic, that can do harm to, Jewish children, that are against the Jewish population, which is very high in New York City. And the incumbent, as you said, is Jewish too. As she talks about in a lot of her interviews, she's the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors. then again, so am I. So is my mother, right? A lot of us are, in a sense. And she's very involved in the Jewish heritage and community. However, she has not said anything publicly in regards to condemning Mamdani, in regards to showing that she wouldn't support some of his policies that are anti-Jewish people, anti her constituents. I'm running for District 5, which has Upper East Side, 58th Street to 96th Street, East Side, and Roosevelt Island. Very saturated district, lots of synagogues. Why has she not spoken out publicly? I even was interviewed in an article. If you Google me, you'll find it. And I'm asking, where is she? Why has she not stepped up and showed that she supports the Jewish people? Because clearly the inference is very simple. She supports the party. So it doesn't matter if you have a Jewish city council person. Not a single person in leadership right now in New York City has condemned Mamdani. Everybody supports the party, which means that when in City Hall they want to push dangerous legislation, none of these so-called Jewish leaders are ever going to step up and say, no, we do not vote on this. They are going to be pressured by the Democratic Party, and they will vote on all these things that we are so afraid of right now. So I hope that moderate Democrats will think twice before going down the line on the election day as they normally do and just voting all Democrats, and think twice if they really want a person like that in City Hall.
Who has endorsed you?
So Betsy, the former lieutenant governor.
Betsy McCauley.
Yes, I'm actually speaking at the event she is having tonight regarding subway safety at the Women's Republican Club, and Danielle Penny is going to be there as a special guest host. I've been endorsed by basically all the clubs in Manhattan, the Young Republican clubs, the Metropolitan clubs, Sid Rosenberg. I also met a few other people from WABC, such as Rita Crosby and Suzanne Miller. I'm going to be on her show as well. So I'm making my rounds. I met Elise Stefanik at the Staten Island GOP event. She asked me if I need her endorsement. I said, of course, it would definitely help. I'm really, for Elise, she's very impressive. We really need people like her in government. Essentially, a lot of Republicans are very supportive right off the bat because we finally have a chance this election, more than any election in the past, to even the playing field. New York has been going down the ground for way too long, and we need real leadership, really strong voices, people that are not afraid to take action and do the things that others have failed to do.
So you are new to politics. What were you doing professionally before you decided to enter the race?
So as a child, I was always very entrepreneurial. I think I've had started my first business at 6.
Wow.
Selling. Yeah. So I was always selling, finding ways, to hustle. We came here obviously with very little resources. My parents came with $3,000 and 2 little children and no English. We started living in Brooklyn. I lived in Staten Island. I went to Hofstra undergraduate. Then I got into big pharmaceutical companies where I was launching products, life-saving medicine that was impossible to get into the hands of patients because there was so much bureaucracy. You had to get it approved by formularies in hospitals. All the big insurances didn't want to pay for it. And eventually you would have to carve out a way and find a way where there was no clear path how to get this implemented in practice so people could have the best possible medicine and live longer, have better qualities of life. So I applied the same skill set to politics. It's the same thing. There is no path. You have to make it. You have to figure it out. They just kind of throw you in there. But if you're relentless, and I'm relentless, and I will find a way. And I was very successful. In 2 years, I was the top of the sales force. I went on trips to Hawaii. I figured it out. And I didn't have family connections. Nobody helped me get into the industry. After that, I did a program at Wharton for business and entrepreneurship. I had my own startup. So I was a founder. I wore many different hats. I built teams. And most recently, I have a small portfolio of my own real estate that I rent short term through my company. So it gives me the opportunity to be a full-time candidate.
And are you married, single, children?
So I'm divorced. I have two sons, Ethan and Gavin. And this is actually why I'm running. I've been divorced more than 10 years now, and I'm still in family court. I've been fighting to have access to my children, to have a place in their life. I've been in the family court, which is easily weaponized by the party that has more aggressive lawyers, that has more means to fight it. And in January, I went to the inauguration and I had this moment and I said, I've been doing this all wrong. I'm fighting from the wrong side. If I was in elected office, I would be heard. I would be in rooms where people that make decisions would actually listen to me. And maybe not even just my story, but there's so many other stories like mine, even worse stories than mine. And I would finally, be in a place where systems like that could be challenged and changed. And so when I got back, I decided I was going to run anything. This is my new career. Regardless of what happens, this is a mission. If not this election, there is another election, right? And I'm not going to stop until I'm in office and I can create change.
Well, that's a great way to end this. Let me ask you a question. What other events besides tonight's are you going to be at in the near future? And how could our audience reach out to you?
So I have my own event coming up July 23rd. It's going to be at Steak and Shop. If you go to my website, alinabonsell.com, and look under events, there is a registration link and more information about my event. And then my Instagram is Alina, ALINA B for my last name, Bonsell, alinab.nyc. And I post a lot of details there as well about my events, my recent interviews, and all the articles and information regarding my race.
Anything else you want to share with our audience?
I'm always looking for volunteers if you live in the New York City area.
Actually, you don't have to live in New York City to volunteer. You could be involved. I mean, anywhere. I know people go from all over. Local elections are national elections, and if you want to win, you got to do it all together. It's a team effort. Have you met with the council members?
I do, yeah. The Republican ones, obviously. Yes. Yes, I know them. But yeah, you're right. If they want to volunteer, actually, we do need a few people to help us with phone banks, calling prospective voters and donors and things like that. We have quite some lists and we could really use the help with that. Additionally, if you can volunteer in any other ways, I was thinking originally if you're local, you could be outside with us. But yeah, there's different ways that you can participate. And I'd love the help because like you said, it's a local election, but it is a huge election. City Council manages $116 billion of New York City budget. It is more than most countries. So the power of a city council seat may be small elsewhere, but in New York City, it is larger than life. And this election is so important. It could change the way that our quality of life, is in New York City, and crime and safety and affordability. There are just so many things. If you go on my website, all the things that I stand behind and all the things that I want to improve.
Well, you are always welcome back here. I know that this is the home of Trump land. The America First Warehouse, and I'm sure that, in fact, I saw you were interviewed by Adam Weiss, a frequent participant at the warehouse. He's actually hosted shows from here. So I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more from you before November. We wish you the best of luck. We need common sense, and most people don't know there is a common sense caucus in the city council that many other local groups do not have, and it's key. And let's just put it this way, if with a Mamdani victory, it's going to be harder and harder to have a common sense caucus. And we saw the results of the primary. Wealthier people are going to leave and planning to leave. the people that voted him in were not the people that can't afford to leave. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who are going to suffer the most because they simply cannot afford his ideas.
That is true. And that is what I said. The reason that he won the primaries, he appealed to 12 years of failed Democratic leadership that caused us this poor quality of life. He resonated with people on affordability, on the cost of groceries, on the childcare inaffordability, right? These are all true, but his solutions are the problem. His solutions are very skewed and unfair and just do not add up to this utopia that he is proposing. He wants to hurt those that already fund the city. He wants to hurt them by running them out of the city. And then what is going to be left with the budget that the city has if they cannot already manage properly the $116 billion to create and improve a better quality of life? What is going to happen when that's going to shrivel down to $80 billion because everybody else just moved their big corporations further into Florida or Texas or where tax is reasonable? So that's what they're saying, why he's so dangerous on so many levels. The city's already at this vulnerable state, and he's only going to further run it into the ground if he tries to implement any of these deranged things that he's talking about. For example, he wants to raise minimum wage to $30, right? From $16.50. That sounds great. If I was making, $30,000 a year and I was barely affording my life, be like, yes, he is the guy for me. But let's unpack this. He wants to make sure that every business owner pays $30 in payroll, essentially like almost doubling the payroll expense. How can you as a business owner afford to double your payroll? Where's this profit going to now come from?
Right? As is, commercial real estate in New York is dead. The stores are dead. Retail is gone. I don't know where he's going to get this. We have to move on. But again, tell everybody quickly where they could reach out to you.
So alinabonsell.com is my website, and there's events and other information about my platform pillars. And my Instagram, which is alinab.nyc.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll be talking in the near future.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
So before we get to my next guest, I have to just say my phone, you see me looking down because my phone is exploding. And I'm getting, Cindy, is that the makeup you wore last week when you were on the phone with Tracy? It looks great. Or what did you do differently? You look younger and fresher. Well, I took off the 6 different colors of eyeshadow and the fake lashes. And as I said, I am buying American, toxic-free, tariff-free, cheaper, and delivered to my house. And you could do it too. What I do is I use my lash primer and I use my defining mascara. And I have to tell you, I now went on the Amazon Prime Day. I went to the Nordstrom's anniversary sale to compare the quality of lash and the prices. And ours every single day is at least $5 to $10 less in comparison. You want a big impact mascara? You know which one this looks like with the huge wand. Can you see? I don't know if you could see it or not. There you go. I just want to thank you all for recognizing it. And like I said, reach out to me on my social media, Cindy_Gross, GROSZ, or on X, Facebook, Instagram, and we can get you the same results. I mean, people don't think I'm a grandma looking at this. And you could also actually reach out to the America First Warehouse, and they will reach out to me to make sure. Buy American, tariff-free. We are seeing the news today with all the tariffs. We are seeing what's going on with sales. We are seeing what's going on in the market and a lot of anticipation. we don't have to worry when you buy American, when you buy toxic free, when you buy from a company that has been in business privately for 40 years and never went public so that they never have to answer to DEI and wokeness. I'm actually waiting for my next guest to get on. We were actually going to have on two guests, but there's still, I can't believe it's July. It's the slowest month usually in Washington and in media, and it's the busier than ever. But I'm going to start off, I'm going to tell you, most of us, or many of us, last year at this time were in Milwaukee. How many of you remember the 4 days of the Republican convention? Well, I'm going to share with you some of the highlights I remember from that exquisite convention and watching the nomination of President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance.
Executive Officer of the Republican Jewish Coalition, Mr. Matt Brooks.
Hello, Milwaukee! Let me hear you cheer if you support Israel. Let me hear you cheer if you support Israel. Now, if someone tried that at the Democrats' convention, they'd be booed off the stage. But here, at the Republican convention, we proudly and loudly stand with Israel. This election is a critical moment for the American Jewish community and for Israel. This is our chance to continue the incredible pro-Israel legacy of the most pro-Israel president in history, Donald J. Trump. President Trump, among his many accomplishments, many of which they said couldn't be done, but he did it. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. They said it couldn't be done, but he weakened the Iranian regime. They said it couldn't be done, but he delivered the historic Abraham Accords, bringing us closer to peace in the Middle East. With President Trump, we will repair and rebuild the U.S.-Israel relationship that has deteriorated after 4 disastrous years under President Biden.
That speech.
Actually,
Now, today,
I'm going to let them show because then we could go right into that first, celebrate, and then we could talk about the
Hamas
issues.
attacks,
And I actually,
shockingly, President Biden is still withholding critical arms that Israel needs to defend itself. Boo. America must stand with Israel and against the terrorists, especially Iran. We must stand with the Israeli people. Now, my message here today to the Jewish community is clear. There is only one pro-Israel party, and it's the Republican Party. And here at home, under Donald Trump, we will put a stop to the rising tide of anti-Semitism. President Trump will bring back law and order so that American Jews can once again wear a kippah and walk the streets without fear. President Trump will stop the mobs on the college campuses so Jewish students feel safe when they go to class. The Jewish community is ready to help elect.
that was just a piece of a historic speech by probably the most prominent Jewish leader in America today. CEO Matt Brooks of the Republican Jewish Coalition, and his partner in crime is joining us, a contributor to the show. Sam Markstein, who just came from the Hill. It's been a very busy day on the Hill, the White House. And Sam, I will tell you, the best memory I ever had of going to the conventions, and we're going to share some of that with our audience, is sitting in the presidential suite, the biggest suite, closing night, sitting next to Matt Brooks and you, and watching the balloons come down and celebrating just 4 days of feeling like proud Americans and feeling that we are the party of supporting Israel and really fighting anti-Semitism, and especially who we were fighting, against in November, and finding out all the things that were going on behind the scenes. So Sam, National Political Director, thank you again for tuning in with us and spending some time. I know how crazy it is today there, and we appreciate your minutes with us.
No, I'm always happy to be with you, Cindy. And it's kind of wild to think where we were a year ago this week. I mean, a year ago this past Sunday, the president almost lost his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. I remember exactly where I was. I remember where friends of mine were. The president came within a quarter of an inch of having his life taken and having the MAGA movement silenced. And I believe this too, that by the grace of God, his life was spared. And here we are, a year later, and the accomplishments are really, really stacking up. And the speech you were just playing, our CEO, Matt Brooks' speech, was actually given a year ago tomorrow. And the opening line, I think, speaks for the entire tenor of the speech, which was, "Let me hear you cheer if you stand with Israel." And the entire arena at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee erupted in electric, rapturous applause. And he said it again, "Let me hear you cheer if you stand with Israel." And the place just went wild, holding handmade signs, Trump in Hebrew, Israeli-American flags. I mean, it was really powerful. But then the follow-up line, the kicker is, now, if you tried that at the Democrats' convention, you'd be booed off the stage. And how true and how prescient that has been, as you see people like Zohran Mamdani and others across this country running for higher office that, would hiss and boo at you if you did say that at a Democratic event. So I think we've come so far in the last year. I'm so grateful personally to what's been happening in this country. I mean, you saw it today up on the Hill with the anti-Semitism hearings, with Republicans holding university presidents and administrators accountable for their inaction. You saw it this morning with Mike Waltz's hearing to be UN ambassador, and what a change that's going to be when he's confirmed up in Turtle Bay.
And we're going to show now highlights from the RJC Republican Convention Party. I have pictures with Mike Waltz, with the Secretary of Interior, Doug Burgum. We have pictures of the RJC Party. So many people there. There's Mike Waltz. These people didn't just come to the party because it was, trendy to do. These are people that have been allies and friends of the Republican Jewish Coalition for years. I mean, I have pictures dating 2016, even with Mike Waltz being in Congress and everything, and before that. And so you did say that, yes, we are definitely the party that's fighting anti-Semitism, but we do have to talk about the work that we have to do. We're going to be very successful and acknowledge that there have been a lot of conspiracy theories and a lot of anti-Semitism from a ring of the very right. And some of these people I considered friends, and probably you did too, and friends of the Republican Jewish Coalition. And all of a sudden, they are on social media with ideas and saying things that are just scary. What are we going to do about it?
Well, I think the contrast on this particular point, which is so important, is that the Democrats refuse to have this argument. They will placate, appease, coddle, endorse, and raise money for candidates and people within their tent, as Ken Martin said, the Democratic National Committee chairman said the other day, that the Democrats' tent is big enough for people like Mamdani, who refuse to condemn, globalize the Intifada, refused to condemn the Holocaust. If you can believe that. He got called out by the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum for his rhetoric. So you've got that on the one hand. On the other hand, you've got the Republican Party that is having this family argument. And I can tell you now here, Cindy, that we're going to win this argument. And it's because it's meted out in the polling, in the grassroots. It's all across the board. It's a 95-5. If you ask people who are self-described MAGA voters, should we do everything we can to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon? 95-5 say yes. Should we stand with Israel as our ally? 90-95 say yes. So in every respect on this argument, we're going to win it. And I would just say, Trump is right and Tucker is wrong. And, he can have his debate. We're very pro First Amendment. You can say what you want, but you're also going to be held accountable for what you're saying. And it is not in line with where the MAGA movement is, where the MAGA voters are, and where Republicans writ large are. So I think we're going to have this debate. We're happy to have it. The facts will win out. The truth will win out. But at the end of the day, I think the numbers are very clear on this. And these folks are far outliers on these particular issues. And like you said, a lot of us watched people like this, with awe and respect and all these great things for years. And for some reason, it seems to be the clickbait heavy part of the party now that just wants to drive views and likes and whatever on social media. But in the end, we really have to call it out. And the RJC has made that clear. Our CEO gave a speech in Jerusalem at the JNS conference this past spring, where he said, we are going to call this out. And the exact quote that he gave was, if you are going to make the case that Israel is not our best ally in the Middle East, you're going to have to go through the RJC first. And we stand by that, and we're going to continue to do that work each and every day.
So we do have to talk about the visit last week of Bibi Netanyahu, because the RJC was represented there and did have discussions with both President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister. And can you give us some news we haven't heard?
Well, I'll give you a few fun little numbers for folks that might not have been paying attention as closely as us. So this was the third time that the Prime Minister has visited the White House in 6 months. In 4 years of Joe Biden, he got to visit the White House once. So that's already, a pretty clear indicator of where the relationship is. At the dinner that the Prime Minister had with President Trump and their teams, the Prime Minister nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize, which is the first time a sitting Prime Minister of Israel has ever nominated a sitting president for the Nobel Prize. And I think an important another point on this, on the contrast here, is how far we have come from when Vice President Harris not only boycotted Bibi's speech to Congress, but she boycotted it to go to a sorority luncheon, if you can believe any of that. And she was joined in her boycott of the Prime Minister's speech by more than half of the Democrats in Congress. So the stark contrast here is so incredibly amazing for Republicans, but also incredibly disappointing for the Democrats. And I think that this president and the Prime Minister have really, without any sort of, not being too over the top, I think they really have reached the zenith of the U.S.-Israel relationship when it comes to how strong it is, how close the cooperation is. And all you had to watch was Operation Midnight Hammer to see how closely coordinated and working together these two governments and people are to make sure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon, that the world's most dangerous regime does not get the world's most dangerous weapons. Presidents of both parties had promised to do this for decades, and only President Trump had the guts to do this, to take out the nuclear sites in Isfahan and Fordo and the other sites across Iran. And so I think it sent a message, not just to the Iranians, but the rest of the world, that we are a trustworthy ally. You can count on the United States. Peace through strength. First comes the strength, then comes the peace, as the Prime Minister likes to say. But I think it really underscores how strong this relationship is and is continuing to grow in that way each and every day with this president in the Oval Office.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the midterms. And before we do that, I'm going to ask the team, we have a little clip of somebody we might know that spoke at the RJC event in Milwaukee. I think you'll recognize him. The Speaker of the House. They're showing from Here we are in the presidential suite. But we're going to have a clip here from Mike Johnson. And I know you're working very closely with him. So I want to talk about the midterms because it's very important. Are they getting it up? Okay. It's not coming up because with the rains.
I just got a meeting.
Anyway, so Mike Johnson has been a long time ally and friend of the Republican Jewish Coalition, and I know you're working with him on 2026. We do have a very small majority, and everybody's talking about this. Are we going to win? Are we not? Where is the Republican Jewish Coalition focusing their efforts so that we not only maintain the House and Senate, but expand it?
So we are absolutely working hand in glove with the Speaker, with Tom Emmer, with Richard Hudson, with the NRCC, with CLF, with all the different committees and organizations that are involved heavily in making sure that the Speaker remains the Speaker, that Hakeem Jeffries gets nowhere near the Speaker's gavel, the Democrat get a majority back in the House. And I actually just left a working lunch with the Speaker and Whip Emmer, and I thought there were a few things to talk about. The first is this notion that somehow the map is not good for Republicans in 2026. So let me disabuse you of that notion right now. On the map, there are 13 Democrats in seats that Donald Trump won in 2024. There are 21 seats that Donald Trump came within 5 points of winning in 2024. And there are only 3 Republicans in seats that Kamala won. So the map is actually very lopsided and in favor of Republicans. So I think we're going to have to defy some history here, because the last time a sitting majority in a midterm expanded the majority, you'd have to go back to, I think, FDR to find a year that happened. But like everything else with Donald Trump, he defies the odds. This Republican majority has defied the pundits and the political class every step of the way, in particular on the One Big Beautiful Bill, which everybody thought had no chance of passing, except Donald Trump and except the Speaker, who knew, and Leader Thune, of course, in the Senate, who all knew that this was a comprehensive, massive accomplishment, the likes of which this country hasn't seen in decades. And the pundits said, no way, wasn't going to happen. So I think we have to defy some more history in the midterms in the House, but the map is very lopsided. And in the Senate, in particular, there's a lot of opportunities to win seats, that Donald Trump carried in 2024, whether it's the Michigan open Senate seat, the Georgia Senate seat against Jon Ossoff, and others. And so we are obviously going to be playing at the center of the political battlefield. We don't, go after landslides or windmills. So we're not going to be playing in those races that we're going to win by 30 points or we're going to lose by 30 points. Political folks that watch your show know these races, these majorities are decided, and the House races and the Senate races at the center of the political battlefield. And that's where we're going to continue to train our fire between now and next November.
So I opened my show with my article I wrote for the Arutz Sheva, Israel National News, because I am the educator who has the longest running lawsuit against the Board of Education in New York. And I exposed anti-Semitism 2 decades ago. And the ADL, of course, is in shock over what happened and is now trying to, claim that they want to take actions. Tell us, as Republicans, as Jews, as people who share Judeo-Christian values and work with organizations like CUFI and people like Ambassador Mike Huckabee, what can we do to fix this education crisis? Because someone like me is still in the fight 20 years later. And I know we're all talking about college campuses, but the reality is the people that are marching are those that learned this 20 years ago in the elementary school level schools that the tax dollars paid for.
There's a few things on this. And obviously school choice is a slam dunk, home run, 95-5 issue when you talk to people about it. The Big Beautiful Bill had a really important piece within the bill called the ECCA, which expanded school choice, historic school choice and school freedom bill. It allows for tax credits for school choice at an unprecedented level. Now, there are some carve-outs. Some blue states can opt out, but I'm sure Republicans would love to have that debate over why blue state governors are opting out of an obvious win for families and students. But I think another thing to keep in mind here is that the Republicans are not done. We are talking about actively on the Hill about revoking the NEA's charter, for example, because they're a federally chartered organization, if you can believe it. So this is an issue that Republicans have grabbed with both hands, and they're not letting go, whether it's the anti-Semitism hearings on college campuses, where they continue to pound away and hold those administrators and presidents accountable for, not taking enough action to protect Jewish students, to combating the teachers' unions, to fighting in the K through 12, state by state. It really is an issue that they are taking incredibly seriously, and we are just so happy that they are doing this, because the other side just is totally enthralled to the teachers' unions and will not budge on these things, I'm sad to say.
So I will give you 10,000 pages of transcripts and documentation about that you could gladly share with your education team, because it is college. It's too late. It starts in pre-K. I have second grade dittos of hate and misinformation that needs to be shared, exposed, and those who are sharing it punished, for lack of a better word, or disciplined in the professional manner. Sam, before you go, anything else that we need to share?
So our big event in Las Vegas is coming up in just about 100 days. It'll be the weekend of October 31st in Las Vegas. So very excited about that. We expect every key leader in the Republican Party to be there for what will be I think, our biggest and best flagship event yet. If you'd like to learn more about that or learn more about the RJC, you can find all that information on our website, which is rjchq.org.
Sam Markstein, National Political Director, Republican Jewish Coalition. As always, you gave us so much great information, so much facts. Go back to the Hill, go back to the White House, and bring back some more next month.
I will happily do that. The fun does not stop here in D.C., and boy, is it a different town from just a year ago.
Thank you so much for joining us. And with that, the hour flew. Whether or not I'm in New York or in Texas, whether you get it from DC or Manhattan or Long Island or the warehouse, which is the Trump home, the museum that no one really can explain in a sentence. It's such a unique place. And I really hope that all of you go online, look at the warehouse, come out and visit us. We have so many great live events. Continue to follow us, not just me, but all the shows on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, through Rumble, through YouTube. And as always, it's Right for America. Issues that unite, don't ignite. I'm Cindy Gross, the Jewess Patriot, where you don't have to be Jewish to be a part of the show. We'll see you again soon. Take care, stay safe, and be a proud American.